This is the Amy Edwards Show, and we are here to uplevel our lives in every way at every age. Let's go.
What happens when no one shows up to your party? What happens when your discipline falls apart? What happens when the party stops and you feel alone? This last one is about coming back to this source of energy that's bigger than you. And it's not about your ego, and it's not about your difference that you made in the world, but it's about like being of service to that thing.
Hello, and welcome to the show. Y'all, have you ever had a party on a podcast? You know what? I'm not sure I have either, but I put on a party jacket today. If you're watching, I'm wearing sequins. I love things that are shiny. I love sequins, and I'm assuming our guest does too, because our guest today, Evan Cudworth, is the world's first party coach. You heard that right. I am so excited to find out what we need to be coached on with partying. Actually, I kind of know what I need, but I'm going to see what he tells us today. I'm so excited. He's the creator of The Party Within. It's a framework that helps adults rebuild real connection, presence, and joy in, of course, this age that we live in of disconnection, of loneliness, of overthinking, of scrolling. And his work sits at the intersection of psychology, flow state, community design, and modern social life, and has been featured in GQ, The Washington Post, The LA Times, and Teen Vogue, just to name a few. Evan works with high-functioning adults who are successful on paper but maybe disconnected in real life, IRL, and helps people move from anxious self-monitoring into authentic participation in life. And today, this is a how-to conversation about rebuilding that community and aliveness and just getting our party on, like for real, where it feels good, not something you dread. So welcome, Evan. I'm so excited. Have you partied on podcasts? I'm going to assume you have. I don't know.
Amazing, Amy. Thank you so much for having me here today. I love the sequence. I'm coming from the gym, so I'm a little bit partied down today, but the gym can be a party, and I want to offer that.
Oh my God. I went to the gym with one of my children the other day, and I was like dancing, having a party on the treadmill, because that's how I do. I rock some music. And my child was very embarrassed, actually.
Yes.
And it's a party for me because I want to have a good time everywhere I go. I really do. Isn't that the goal in life? Is that it? I mean,
let's unpack that for a moment,
okay.
right? So I'm here to represent paradox, because to me, partying is a paradox, and I want us to be careful. You know, I don't think partying is good times only, or toxic positivity, or forcing yourself to, be happy and let's just be in the good times. And I think a lot of spiritual communities and personal development can drift into that. And that's really where this party within, or where I felt compelled to become a party coach, because I believe partying will save humanity, because it is a place where we can be in paradox. We can be messy in front of each other. We can be dirty. We can be naughty. We can be gross. And we could dress up, and we could be sexy. We could be cool. We could be all of those things. And it's a place that is able to contain those in a way that very few other places on the planet can contain is the wrong word, but can maybe embody is the right word.
I mean, who hasn't cried at a party at some point or another?
Yeah. Yes.
I have. I've done a lot of things at parties that some of them I'm really not proud of. So you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It is a space for everything. So how did you realize that we needed this? What made you go, oh, we need a party. The world needs a party coach.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with, what is your relationship to partying nowadays? How do you feel like you have time to party in space? What does your party life look like nowadays?
Nowadays, I'm married to a man that has embraced sobriety in a way that he decided he wants to have the best time at everything sober wherever he goes. And I have worked hard to adopt that mindset as well. And so being sober almost 4 years right now, it has changed my relationship with partying to a way where I have to, it's raw dogging, it's like you don't have those social lubricants or whatever, because I was a big drinker, really, among other, substances. But that was really the one that helped me the most. And so it has stepped into a space of growth for me, really. And I try to love that. And it's just different now because I have to work on not judging. And like if other people are drinking and maybe repeating themselves or whatever, you have to be like, and I have to know when to leave and take care of myself. And it's sort of like a microcosm of life, I think.
Yes. And first of all, congrats on the sobriety and the seeing
Thanks.
things different, I think is such a good way to phrase it.
Yeah.
My story is, and we can get into it, but I identify as in recovery, but not sober. I'm
Hmm.
somebody who had been sober for long periods of time. I love my life today with things that I choose to do on occasion, but I did have the opportunity to like fully raw dog sober for about 2.5 years. And I went to hundreds of parties during that time. I was out going to festivals and I was doing a lot of TikToks and just got to experience all of the things that I cringed so much at the judgment that I had for other people, the judgment I had on myself. And coming out on the other side of that now, this party within method is a way for somebody to, I see it more as an unlearning process, to
Hmm.
strip away what you think you need to party, right? So we have this idea of I need alcohol, I need a certain drug, I need to be dressed a certain way, I need to have friends, I need to have all these things. And what does it mean to unlearn some of that? And then the party within that people arrive at, I have no control over that. And everybody arrives at kind of a different experience of what that is going to be for them. But I see my method more as an unlearning process that helps people step into it. So it sounds to me
Yeah.
to you you've unlearned some of the things that you needed to have there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's still an
what is
unlearning
that bubbled
process,
up for
though.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just been once I realized that the uncomfortable space was really staying sober, I was like, "Uh-oh, now I have to go there, right?" And really get through that and kind of l l let that be my learning process. And so there was a lot of, unlearning of I need things, and I was just very cognizant and of what you were just saying, right? Of needing all those things, right? We should be able to put those things down and just be in life. I was at an event the other day, and it was like a whole party thing for this speaking event that my husband had, and I didn't know anybody really, and I wasn't opposed to talking to people at this party, but I didn't really know anybody, and I didn't really care that much. I was having a nice time with some food, and there was a table, and I was just like hanging there, and I was like, felt this sort of feeling like I should be embarrassed that I'm alone right now. But then I was like, I'm actually happy. So I guess I should embrace this. It was kind of like a whole new party sensation, like, where
Yeah.
you resist that aloneness, but it's really I'm just worried about perception, I guess. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I relaxed into it.
Are you open to doing a little coaching around that at all?
Yeah, please,
I
because I bet a
love
lot of
that.
people can identify with that feeling of like, being alone, and you feel awkward, but I'm actually perfectly happy.
Yeah, but let's unpack that a little bit of that
Okay.
perceived of being alone.
Mm.
What happens when you see other people that you perceive as being alone? What do you think about them?
Yeah, I think that it can run a range of maybe sensing their energy, and you can feel sorry for them, or you can like have some compassion, or maybe they look all right and you're like, okay, I guess they just want to be alone. So I think there's a little spectrum, perhaps.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you have memories of, a time where you like felt really alone or felt judged by friends or do you have any core memories around that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot. A
Yeah.
lot, but I guess let's see, if we're talking about, like, a core memory from when I was young, yes, I had a friend, and, she had, like, me and another friend, and it was I would say toxic in elementary school, right? And so she would just, like, purposefully leave me out, and it was, made me sad, and my sister too. I had an older sister, and she would, like, exclude me and stuff, so you did feel kind of on your own, I'm sure. A lot of people can relate to that with a sibling.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember what was your coping method for feeling alone during those periods of your life when you were a kid?
I don't know. I don't know what my coping mechanism was. Maybe sometimes I would talk to my mom. So I did try to express it. Uh,
Yeah.
I was sad. A lot of times I guess I tried to make another friend and, move forward in a healthy way, even though I wasn't really
Yeah.
like making that association, but what else was I gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's beautiful that your instinct was to express it, to talk to,
Mm.
talk to your mom, to move that out there.
Mhm.
What I hear from people, I think that is actually a lot of people's first reaction. But what typically will happen is then, as we get into high school and college, it's like, okay, well, I don't want people to know that I'm feeling this thing, right? Because there's something at risk. Maybe it's your social reputation or something like there. And then that's when like I would start to isolate, right? Or I
Yeah.
would pull back in a way, or I would be like, well, I need something to cover this up. And so I became a theater kid, right? I was this like nerdy, introverted, I'm actually a cellist. You can see my cello behind me here.
Whoa, cool.
Um, yeah, but I would like hide on stage, right? Is like I would practice my cello and then I could go be on stage and people would have to see me, right? People would have to like experience me, but I wouldn't have to have any sort of intimacy, right? They could just kind of perceive me as this person on stage.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've gotten to learn again and again is when I was struggling eventually with alcohol or substances or isolation, that my first instinct was if I could go help somebody else feel like they belong in that moment,
Mm.
like that
Mhm.
90% of the time, that solves my problem, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the party within me is service. So like if I can be of service, if I can find a purpose, if I can help somebody else like get to a place, at least for that day, I feel like, okay, good. I've created something that's valuable here.
Yeah.
And so that's why this whole party coach thing of what it is, I had to basically create a whole entire persona and, be the cringiest person on TikTok and call myself a party coach and, dude, like really, really put myself out there in ways that were so, you know, I think many would interpret as like, what is this late stage capitalism? Like we have party people teaching us how to party. And really what it's about is I'm trying to serve the party, to be of service to people who feel like they don't belong in a way that they feel like they can pass that on to.
Yeah. Oh, that's really beautiful because, I mean, then you can view any space as like, all right, this is a place I fit in. And I think that I ended up with maybe coping by perfectionism or drinking as years went by,
Mhm.
right? And so if I was in those spaces, I would need to make sure I looked perfect or whatever that version of that was, or stood out with fashion in some way, or drank, right, to make it more, I don't know, like tolerable, I suppose, or something
Yeah.
like that. Um, so yeah, let's expand on the framework that you've built to help people through this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Party Within is a 7-stage process. It echoes, if you're familiar with like an alchemical process like alchemy
Hmm.
or, a lot of spiritual practices or sort of 7 stages of your kind of breaking things down to their individual parts, kind of fusing them together and then synthesizing them into kind of this new whole.
Well, what does that look like? Or if someone's not familiar with alchemy, what would that
Yeah.
sound like for them?
So the first stage is a detox phase. So and the way that I work with this in clients, I've done this at like 7-week process. I've done this a 7-month process, and then I've done kind of like do it at your own pace. I have a workbook that people can work through kind of on their own pace. So a lot of people
Oh,
take different
good.
times to sort of integrate this.
Mhm.
But the first step is a detox, which is, you know, cutting out those things that maybe are the distractions, right? The social media, the drugs and alcohol, um, anything. We can get into dopamine or things like that, but it's basically, I'll have people do a full like 7 days off social media, like really like nothing but listening to music and walking and just
Wow.
quieting down all of the noise all around
Yeah.
them. Have you ever done like a longer detox like that?
I don't think I have. I mean, like, I've definitely gone off of things, but not so consciously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel? Yeah. How is your relation? Like, what's maybe noisiest for you in your brain on a week to week basis
Well, I
now?
think let's talk about it in relation to what you do.
Sure.
I think I have a hang up and I've always had it and I'm very aware of it right now. I'm like in a phase where I'm trying to post on social media every single day. And just as an experiment, just for fun, right? And share some things. And I have a hang up that no one really wants to come to my party. Like that's my deep thing. Like I've never really wanted to throw parties because there's like some value worthiness issue in there that no one wants to come to my party. Isn't that
Yeah.
isn't that wild? And here I am with a
Yeah.
podcast, right? And like this is part of it. Like this is my party. And do I think anybody really wants to come? And like, it's like just and I know my worthiness. I've done so much work on it. I've done all this self-love, everything that I talk about on the show. And then still like I know that there's a little something in there, because like the thought of throwing a party right now, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to plan an
Yeah.
event. I don't want to throw a party.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Well, do
What do you
you
think of that?
identify with like over being or overcompensating at all?
I don't know. I don't know. Not really. Not so much anymore. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I don't think so. I'm
Yeah.
pretty comfortable, but maybe,
If
I don't
only
know.
like that's what I'm struggling with the social media and the overbeing. Like so much of my success came from this like overdoing it, right? Of just like posting 7 times a day and doing the dances and doing everything where I look at some of that and I think I was trading some of my dignity for attention.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay. Like it was a trade I was happy to make, and it's me. It truly is me. Like I liked that.
And
And
maybe
I'm
you had to go through that to learn that you didn't wanna do it, you know what I mean?
yes. Yes.
Yes.
But this idea that if I'm not like over being, nobody wants to come to my party is
Oh,
is something
yes.
that I struggle with a little bit. But
Mhm. Oh, I can understand that too. That's like the
yeah,
sort of the other side of the coin with that, for sure.
yes. But I'm actually due to go through my own process again. I'm about to, and actually this is what I've been working through
Oh, cool.
is I haven't done my own process in about 2.5 years, and I feel like
Mhm.
a completely different person that I was two and a
You
half years
you
ago,
probably are. Your
where
cells are
I was like
turning over.
very, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I was living in LA. I hosted moon circles and parties and events, and I was like they called me the mayor of Venice Beach because I was, just out everywhere all the time. And now I live in Chicago, which I love, and I party and I have a beautiful life here that I love, but I just feel this like grounded introversion part of me that I'm not as good inviting people to like the smaller intimate dinner parties, or how do I throw something that is, more intimate, and will people want to come to that party? And so I
Mhm.
get to go through my process. Thanks for reminding me of that.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
hey, no
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Glad I could be of
but
service.
yeah, but so when you have, you know, where do you feel like your best parties have been? Where are you most excited that you've created communities or things that people love to show up to?
Oh, probably this. I mean, probably
Yeah,
this is what I keep doing and keep showing up.
yeah,
But I do think that a little part of it probably comes from that that old wound, if you wanna call it that, or
yeah,
that thing I have healed and that, I put myself out there and I put myself in a space of growth. And so I think that I'm most proud of this. This feels the most fun to me. And,
yeah.
I just have to not worry about who's not here and worry about who is, right? And value that and trust my path. Like it's all those things that I'm constantly talking about and letting go of what's not in my control, which I think you mentioned earlier.
Yes. And, something that we discuss a lot is, the party is one of those things where it's possible to stay too long at the party, right? And
Yeah.
I'm somebody who's stayed too long sometimes, but how do you determine, do I leave the party? Do I change the party? Do I like shut it down and restart it? Like, there's lots of ways to think
Yeah.
about, what is, because again, this might be a good little segue. So I always have a working definition of what party actually means.
Okay.
And,
So it shifts, it
I think,
evolves.
yeah, it shifts, but I think the word
Okay.
party itself is a paradox, right? But a couple things. One, a party requires participation, right? We've talked about it, right? So it's not just like the spectators. Like if you're just watching something, it's not really a party, right? You are something like you're participating. And level two, there's some level of like exclusivity or like in-group, out-group, right? You are participating in an in-group. So there's a guest list, right? For lack of a better word, but it might be some sort of barrier to entry, right? So I love really hot sculpt yoga, where you do it in like the 115-degree rooms and you do that. Like not a lot of people want to do that. So like that is a bound of exclusivity of, while it's technically anyone could go, a lot of people would be like, oh, that's not for me, right? So there should be some level of like exclusivity or in-group, out-group to it. And then finally, there should be some sort of like opening and closing to it, right? The party can't last forever. A party that is ongoing and never stops is not a party, right? That is just life. And so it's hard. Like that last one has been the hardest one for me because like I want the party to never stop. I want it to go forever, always. But
I think there's a print. I think
Yeah.
that's a Prince quote, isn't it? Life is just a party.
Yes.
Parties weren't meant to last. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So
Anyway,
a lot of
so,
clients
yeah.
that I come to deal with are, usually dealing with one of those three things, right? Is like they have usually been like spectators, or they want everyone to be invited, right? And it's like you actually have to have some inclusivity, or who is actually not invited to your party, and how do you set those boundaries? And ultimately, like, how do you choose to start and stop the parties in your life? And what does that feel like?
Mhm.
Um,
I think there's a lot of intuition there, right? Like a lot of learning to
yeah.
listen to yourself and tune into your intuition.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. How has your intuition evolved? Maybe even in doing this show, how have you seen your intuition evolve?
Oh, I mean, it's been a wonderful. It's been a journey of self-love and as really tuning into my heart and my chakras and trusting myself. It's been a path of using my voice to as a a vehicle for truth and authenticity and learning to trust myself. And as a result, I'm pretty attuned with my intuition. So, and being
Yeah.
sober has been a big part of that too, actually. I think it dulls your intuition if you're not sober.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Can we talk about chakras for a moment?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Because
Mhm.
I'm about 2 years into I've been meditating for a long time, but like really embodying kind of chakra balancing and harmonizing. Have you had like chakra blockages? Like, how has that worked for you? I'm just curious have you had any ones blocked? Which ones are your issues? How do you work through your chakras?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, of course. And I think it just takes some intentionality around, where am I not paying attention to, or really tuning in with your body during meditation or just when you're going to sleep. I don't know. And I would say there was a big one in 2018, 19 for me when I was not speaking my truth. I was fearful during a divorce and I ended up losing my voice and understood that that was such a vital part of who I am that I had to get in touch with my own authenticity and my own boundaries and be able to speak my truth. And it took about, I was sick, actually, it physically manifested. And so I had to have a surgical procedure and do a lot of plant medicine.
Yeah.
And then and then it started to come back online. So it just took time, and I mean, how about for you?
Yeah, I'm one, just beautiful that you've been able to step in and heal that.
Thanks.
About a year ago, I was having like such a throat chakra blockage. I was having tooth problems, and then it was in the
Wow.
shoulders, and I'd have a root canal, which I had like never had before. And, then this was after I had literally just, you know, the biggest platform of my life. My videos were going viral. I was being approached by reality TV. They wanted to give me a reality show. And like a lot of these things, like there was a lot of opportunities to share my truth. But what I now realize and think is it wasn't somewhat was blocked here, but actually it was that my like root and sacral were closed off to certain types of energy. And so I was only getting a certain type of energy that was allowed to come up, and it was like choking off the energy that was actually up here. And so this whole last year has been, I wouldn't call it painful, but it's been like, yeah, very like vulnerable in those like the most intimate parts of my body to like allow energy to flow around in there. And I was like, don't touch that part of me.
Yeah.
And so I now feel I'll sit in like the sauna, or I will, even before a podcast, I'll send my roots into the earth, and I imagine like energy, I'll breathe up on the left side of my body that will flow all the way up and allow it to kind of cleanse my chakras from either side. And the ability to be in my body and to pull up energy from the earth and rely on that instead of everything in the past, I think came from my heart. I've always had a very open, big heart, and I've loved that. But I was not willing to draw on any energy from anywhere else. I was like, I have to do this all myself. And so, anyway, long answer of saying, like, there's still a lot of work that I get to do, but I wish I would have known about chakras when I was 20. I just had no idea.
Hmm.
And it helped a lot to have that as a tool to look at some of these things.
How does that relate to your work as a party coach with some of your clients, or just in that I don't know, modality?
Yeah. Well, again, I mentioned the 7 stages actually do kind of represent the 7 states, like do represent the 7 chakras as we sort of
Oh,
continue to move through. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So like the second stage is called Make Peace with Ghosts. And it's kind of this sacral connection with the labels and the addictions and the stories that we have about ourselves, that like
Hmm.
really intimate connections with ourselves, but making peace with that and learning to, whatever you identified with in the past, how do we bring that into like the sexual energy of the present?
Mm.
Um,
How do you
and
bring
then
it in? How do you bring it in?
yeah, so it is a process of unlearning. So I'm always a little cautious to tell you this is how it happens, but
Sure, sure. I understand. I mean, everything
yes,
is
inevitably, yeah, like, as you
different.
remove these labels,
Hmm.
you've had this experience, right? As soon as you stop identifying as, like, I'm someone who needs alcohol in this situation, something else fills that place, right? It's like, "Oh, wow, I have this ability to go talk to the person who's lonely," or whatever it
Hmm.
is, naturally fills that place.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I want to keep hearing through the 7 steps.
Yes. So then we move into our solar plexus, which is sort of our relation to other people,
Hmm.
and, um this process actually kicks off a 21-day process that I call a wellness bender, which is a kind of a bender for that involves like habits of going out into the world and complimenting strangers. So for 21 days, you need to compliment strangers. You're going to call 21 people in your life. These are friends. These are people you've ghosted or have ghosted you. These are connections that you have in the world that there's something incomplete in there, and just offering a thank you or a gratitude or an offer to reconnect into those places. And this is like, I love all parts of the process, but this is one of my favorites because I have people that, so many, we're told on there's so much language around there of like, if people don't match your energy, like kick them out of your life, and I think there's good in that. But I've had so many people that have reconnected with friends and family and people, and the other person was like, oh my gosh, I was like in a really shitty place in my life, and I got scared and I couldn't contact you. And like people reconnect through this simple process of the humility of we can be connected at any moment, and we have the ability to do that.
Mm.
Um,
So important.
and
So
yeah,
important. Yes.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this kind of like starts to rewrite some of these stories and these ideas around ourselves, right? Of
Yeah.
the things that social media has told us, or the labels that have worked for us for a long time, or the identities that we've taken on. Maybe those aren't all true. And maybe there's these new possibilities that are sort of inside
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just there's a lot of letting go of what we've decided about someone else, like they don't match your energy or whatever. I mean, one of my best friends is so different than me, and it doesn't matter. Like, you know what? We are able to connect, and she has surprised me actually in the last few years. I don't know if it was my influence or what, but she put down alcohol herself, and it shocked me. We had a lot of patterns of drinking together and stuff, and it was just like, wow. And like, you never know what people are capable of. And I think that when we decide something about someone else, that can be detrimental in ways that we can't even predict.
Yes.
Mhm.
I love hearing stories of people whose friends start making, life choices or health choices, like as
Mhm.
in regards to things that we're doing, but that it can be in a way that maybe feels more natural, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard, right? Because I think a lot
Mhm.
of, like of course I lost some friendships and relationships as I made choices, but I will say I'm really grateful. I had mentors and friends and people who advised me not to cold cut people off. And even like my Coke friends, like the people I would just like do Coke with, people are like, delete them from their phone, like get them away. And it's like, while I put some distance, some of those people remain. They're the people that pick me up from the airport. Like they show up for me in ways that like other people are not able to do. And this is just my experience, but
Yeah.
I perhaps am too trusting in some ways of the world, but I like that about myself. And I like
I
that
don't
I'm able,
know.
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you talk a lot about flow, and I think that there's a lot of self-trust in there. Like, I can be with this person and I'm not going to go snort a bunch of lines of Coke or something. And you just know yourself enough, but also, you're not in a dangerous situation where you need to cut someone out, or able to live in a state of flow where, I mean, you can expand on flow and how you view it as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is perfect. So the stage 4 brings us into the heart and the flow, right?
Oh, okay.
And so this,
Natural.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
So this brings us kind of as we're on this wellness bender, as we're sort of connecting and moving
Mhm.
into places like this, we start to look at, what are very specifically habits and ways of being that are going to start to put you on this path of finding that party within, right? So instead of saying like, I hate parties because I'm always anxious because I feel alone. Being like, just stripping out that first part of it and being like,
Mhm.
I feel alone at parties. I want to feel belonging at parties. So we develop words of what you want to feel. So are there maybe some other words of what you might want to, what do you want to feel more of when you're at parties?
Fun, love, ease. Um,
Perfect.
yeah.
So fun, love, ease. We'll literally like write those words down and start to create questions, because what you're doing in stage 4 is you're becoming a portal for these things to happen. So if I want to feel more fun, what I'd write in my notes app on my phone, I'll ask like, what are you doing for fun this week? And that's the first, I don't ask what the weather is. I don't ask anything. I ask people about fun. What's fun for
Mhm.
you? What hasn't been fun for you? And I become a portal for fun to exist in the world because I'm asking about fun. I'm creating it. I'm literally pulling it into the world by becoming a flow for this.
Yeah.
And so, yes. And so
Yeah.
this is, again, if for anyone who's listening along, if you want like one actionable thing that you can just do today, you don't have to do the beginning stuff. If you just want to feel different, write down questions that you can ask people that are would help you feel that thing that you want to feel. And this can sometimes be vulnerable, but if you want to feel more belonging and say a question like, hey, like, where do you feel like you must belong in the world? If you're afraid to ask that question, it doesn't surprise me that you don't feel belonging in the world. Right? Like, if that's too cringe for you, like if you're not able to be a portal for it, you're probably not going to receive it. And so learning how to move past your own fears around maybe asking too intimate a question or moving that there, just offering that might be one of the things that's blocking you from feeling those things.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, that's excellent advice. I like that you take it down to just doing something fun for yourself too that week, right? Like you really getting intentional about those things that you desire.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're in the
What's the
heart,
next one?
we're in the flow, we're like creating this love, we're sharing whatever those feelings that we want to have.
Uh-huh.
And let me stop briefly here too. If this is all sounding too like woo-woo talks like positivity, there's sometimes where I want to feel authenticity and I want to feel like I'll literally ask people like, do you find what's happening in the world right now crazy? Like I just want to it's not the healthiest thing, but sometimes that's what I need to feel and hear is like validation that something is happening in the world. But know that if that's what you're asking the world, you will probably get validated of that. And that will
Mm-hmm.
continue to be a cycle that you're in. So just offering that. It doesn't all have to be happy all the time. But if you create it, it's authentic, but you risk staying in that place.
Mm-hmm. There's probably
So
some
moving up.
balance there. Yes.
Yeah. We're moving into the throat and into this is what I call building your tribe. Because a tribe is both about being heard, but it's about listening. And it's about kind of the reciprocal feeling of being a part of and wisdom and who is in my tribe versus who is not. And not everyone is going to respond to the fun that you want in the world and making those choices of wisdom around this. And so this is where we start to build, what is your ideal tribe? What qualities do they have? Who are these types of people who you're going to be around? And starting to create, and it's connected pretty tightly to the next one, which is host your ritual. We kind of
Mm-hmm.
move to our third eye, which is kind of this point of intuition. And ritual, like how are you, can you start to create something? So sometimes this is, I want to be around people who are fitness and fun, right? So it's like, I'm going to start to host something in the park every Sunday morning where we put on Prince and we do a yoga class together. And I
Mm-hmm.
host it every single Saturday morning at 9:30. And people that want to be there, everyone I meet, when I meet them at a wedding, when I meet them somewhere else, I'll be like, yo, are you into Prince and yoga on Saturday mornings? I host this like Prince yoga. Do you want to come with me? And you start this ritual and your intuition starts to build and people start to see and feel you're somebody that can tap them into these sorts of things. And so your tribe, your ritual is all sort of building around this together. And we're
Do you,
moving a
do you,
little faster here, but
do
yeah,
you
go
ever
ahead.
have any days when nobody shows up?
Oh
And
my
what do you
gosh.
do? And what do you do?
Yeah, and this is one of my wounds too. I
Is
still get
it?
sensitive about this.
Okay? Okay.
No matter how much validation I get from the world, sometimes I will say when I was living in LA, I, always had the dream of becoming like a fitness instructor. And I was like a very scrawny, not fit person for my whole 20s. And when I cleaned up my life a little bit, I started going to like Barry's boot camp and, there's like really intense things. And eventually I did get trained as a sculpt yoga teacher and I was teaching on the beach. I would teach at sunset and these gorgeous sunsets in Santa Monica. And I would have celebrities come to my classes. And it was just like my dream. And sometimes I would have full classes. And then one day they would like move my schedule to another day. And I was like, my community will show up. And then like one person or no person would show up to my class. And any like comedian, actor, musician, like the rite of passage is you go play to empty rooms.
Oh
You
my
play
God.
to one
I
person.
was a musician, friend. I
Yeah.
was a musician.
Yeah.
One day I did a
Yeah.
show on the day of the Oscars, and Ellen was hosting, and it was a Sunday, and it was snowing or icy in Austin. I mean, it was like literally no one at wherever I was, Mohawk or whatever. Yeah, literally no one. No one. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And it's not fun. But what did change and again, you can talk about it intellectually, but again, until you've experienced it, I think it's almost impossible to explain. But after, a couple months of that, I did start to just be like, okay, this one person who shows up, or even if nobody shows up, how would I be a portal for like whatever I wanted to be here, right? Who would I admire? The people that I look up to in the world, how would they show up? And I love watching those. Like, I do a lot of like underground music, but like DJs will play to like one person who's in a room, and they're still like just throwing it down, and like they have that energy. And I was like, that's how I want to show up in the world. And it's not always easy, and it's a fine line to walk, right? Because there can be some like too toxic positivity in it. But again, this is where I bring in maybe the last part, which is our crown chakra, which is our connection to source, to higher power, to whatever that might be for you. And this is where I draw with like the universe and what happens when everything goes wrong. What happens when no one shows up to your party? What happens when your discipline falls apart? What happens when the party stops and you feel alone? This last one is about coming back to this source of energy that's bigger than you. And it's not about your ego, and it's not about your difference that you made in the world, but it's about like being of service to that thing. And when I can come back to that humility and then begin again, and you go all the way back to the you go back to the root.
Yeah.
And you reconnect.
Yeah, and I think too, as you're creating those rituals, if like no one's showing up and you're connected to source, God, higher power, how do you recommend, or I think you're more tuned in to know when you need to change versus when you need to continue. And I was wondering how you tell people to navigate that, because like if you're doing something every week and no one shows up ever, then do you have a point where you're like, do I need to change or do I stay the course? Because it's so hard to know, and I know a lot of people have trouble with that particular thing.
What a great question. And this is one for me where, sometimes I will like pray, connect, meditate, whatever, and I will get an answer to continue. But very often I don't, right? And it's like I feel like I'm pushing.
Yeah.
And this is where I look for, this is why it's important to cultivate these other areas of, can I call some of those people I called in stage 2, right? The people who've known me for 20 years. And I can ask them, am I crazy here? Like, should I still be doing this or not? And you don't have to take that advice, but very oftentimes my God or whatever higher power speaks to other people, and I can feel when it lands differently when I hear it from people who I trust. And so again, the tribes and the people that you cultivated in these earlier sections, not just relying on your own intuition, but hearing from other people and asking and being open to feedback from them, that's where this all ties together.
Yeah, that's interesting as well. And then you go back through the process. Then you're tuning into detoxing again and kind of revisiting any habits that may have re-shown up or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, for example, like you mentioned, I'm really struggling with my social media use right now.
Ooh.
And my desire to scroll, and everything's research. And I save all these videos that I'm going to reply to. And I'd always been pretty good about creating more than I consumed. And I've definitely crossed this path of I'm just consuming a lot more of that than I would like to be right now. And yeah, so I get to I'm being honest about it, it's because it's my job.
Yeah.
It's really harder for me to set boundaries on it.
Do you think that there's fear under there for you, or do you think it's a part of growth that you need the pause to figure out your next step, or is it a way of procrastinating?
So I've gotten pretty clear signals that are
Mhm.
like, you need to take like a little. So I've been trying to do a Vipassana, which is like a 10-day
Yeah.
silent meditation retreat. Have you done Vipassana?
I have not. I have been recommended, I just haven't had this quiet space. I have 2 children and,
Yes. Yeah.
you know, I
Can't
just
really
I'm
get away.
not now they're getting old enough to where I will. My youngest will be 17, so I'm almost there. She
Yeah.
she would gladly not talk to me for 10 days, I think, so.
Yes. Again, I'm getting signals to go do that, and I've delayed 2 of them, and I keep being
Ooh.
like, well, once I get, this next coaching thing launched, and once I do this podcast circuit, then
Mhm.
I'll do this. But yeah, these are good questions because I do notice myself, but also I'm receiving a lot of lessons in my procrastination, and I'm really getting clear on kind of like how powerless I am over it, and having to
Hmm.
admit that there's my willpower is probably not going to get me out of this one.
Well, I mean, I know for me, a lot of times I'll later realize that I needed to go through that to understand it more deeply, to serve people better. And that has been kind of a recalibration point for me. And I know that I have moments of low points. I had one today. I wrote about it in my newsletter today. And I I just always kind of come back to, you know what? I probably need to go through this to understand it so fully to be able to serve people better. And it could be that for you, right? You could need to know what this is like. So you can firsthand tell people, I fucking get it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I always, when people ever ask me about, do you regret, the 15 years you spent, like raving and partying and drinking and benders? And I was like, no, I regret I'm grateful that some of it was isolated. I was not out hurting a lot of people, but I was selfishly using my time, energy, and money in ways that were not probably the
Hey,
healthiest way.
Evan, let
Yeah.
me tell you this right
Yeah.
now, okay? I wouldn't trust a party coach that hasn't fucking partied, okay? If you were
There
like,
we
"I'm
go.
a
Yeah.
party coach,
Yeah.
but I've never drank or and I've never snorted coke," I'd be like, I need a different party coach, okay? 'Cause, I need somebody who's actually lived that life, right? You need to understand that that doesn't fulfill and what truly does. And so you ha well, let me just say, if you're gonna call yourself a party coach, that's part of it. That's
Oh,
part of
yeah.
it.
Yes. Yes. And
Anyway, so
yes, and
badge of honor,
the
that's like
yes.
you frame that, you put that on your wall, like, "This is my certification."
Oh, yeah.
It is, it
It's
is.
it's
So, like
beautiful. And, that is what I do hope to offer people too is there's so much like love and humanness in the messy parts of that. And not that there's not good and evil, right? I truly believe that there
sure.
are, but that our capacity to exist in those spaces or to take on some of that energy or to see and look and confront and be in those parts of ourselves are, at least for me, that's the kind of life I want to live. And I don't
Yeah,
want to be happy. I
yeah,
don't.
yeah, true. And how can people, if they're listening to this and they're like, I have a party coming up, how can they use that space? Just like, I know there's the longer process that you've got, but how can they use that space to know themselves, to meet themselves better than perhaps avoiding themselves and just using it as something external to validate, to get out of their heads, whatever? How can they meet themselves more in that space? What would you recommend?
So first of all, know that like this is just a fact. A third of the parties that you go to are going to be great. A third are going to be mediocre, and a third are going to be bad. That's just like everything that we do is that way, right? And if you're trying to make every party great or everything great, you are going to be inauthentic with yourself and just the way that the universe works, right? It's everything is split into hierarchies of difference, right? So allow
Mhm.
yourself to not make everything great. Allow yourself to feel off. Allow yourself to feel weird. Allow yourself to feel different, bad. And you'll notice that when you look back, you're like, actually, a lot of those were really great. But you have to go in with the mindset of not trying to force it. The second thing I would say is, again, start with that service, right? Stop thinking that it's going to give you confidence or change your life or make you a better person. Humble yourself and start with, how can I help somebody else first? And very oftentimes what happens, like when I was doing this, I was a month or so, like, yeah, I think I was like 3 months fully sober the first time I was doing this. And I went to Burning In, which is, the 10-day party in the desert, lots of drugs and alcohol and all kinds of things happening there. And I felt very good. And I went there with like I felt like a pretty solid life. And my purpose there was just to like give my energy to other people. And I ended up meeting people. I ended up having like really cool, weird sex and like sober sex. And it was like all these cool things happen by me like trying to be of service to other people instead of like, let me show people how confident and happy I am. So
Oh,
the
that's great. I love that.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So it's
right.
come from a place of service. And like, again, you when you become that portal, the stuff flows through you. And it's like, I didn't do those things, right? Like me being
Mhm.
of service brought those things to me.
That's beautiful. And then what you said before too kind of reminded me of how many times things have been ruined for me by my own expectations being too high. I always say I'm a big fan of low expectations because then, which could be kind of depressing actually, because then you're just like not disappointed or your fear of disappointment or whatever. But what do you have to say about expectations and parties?
Happiness is the proximity of our expectations to our reality.
True, yes. Actually,
So
no, but I mean, like low expectations and the realities up here, then you're really happy, right? Like, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, like inversely, yeah, you're right. Yes.
Inverse.
But
Oh, okay. Now that
yes,
makes sense.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the man, and we could talk about potential and wasted potential and kind of how we think of all those things. But again, the biggest other thing, we didn't talk too much about it, but I'm an overthinker. You seem like you're a little bit out of your head into your body too. But I think a lot of people that are probably listening to this are maybe still in that thinking place. Almost everything good that's come out of my life in the last 15 years has been getting out of my head and into my body and into my spirit.
Mm.
And if you're trying to think your way into, your next best thing, good luck.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And in that vein, I would say right now, it seems like, I don't know, maybe it's just my algorithm, but I don't think so. But there's so much in the world that is trying, right? It's trying meaning testing us, like, and it's very complicated and difficult, and there's a lot of injustice. And so partying can feel irresponsible. And so what do you tell people around the current climate of the world and allowing themselves to feel positive and joyful?
Yeah. This is one of my favorite questions. And I'm someone who I've been very political active at many times in my life, or what I thought was being politically active. And I'll offer, if you study history of what really made a difference in connecting humans to other humans, in war, in severe injustice, the people that gather around the fire to sing songs. They're like soldiers that are like playing guitar like together, before they go into battle. The there's something about like the party that cuts through all of those things and reminds us, like gives us the energy to do the other things that we might not want to do.
Mm,
And if you are constantly cutting off that part of yourself, if you're killing the part of yourself that believes that partying is not one of the most essential parts of being human, um, in some ways, I admire that, but I fear for your longevity and sustainability to be someone in the world that can continue to make a difference. And I find that like I have I don't believe I can change anyone's mind, but I believe I've changed many people's hearts by sitting in a room with them, by dancing with them, by partying with them. And I don't think I've ever changed somebody's mind by arguing with them.
Mm. Yeah, good advice. Uh, I wanted to, oh, sorry, I lost my place. That was a beautiful answer, right? Um, how do you see people's attitudes around partying and the maybe I don't know, let's say just partying in midlife.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I will be 40 this year. I love it.
All
I love
right,
my
new
age.
decade.
Yeah, I love my life. I love my age. I love being where I am. I I'm a cringy millennial. I'm grateful that we grew up we were definitely like a part. I think every generation has its own way of partying, but I think one thing that we have to be careful about is not chasing nostalgia. And by that I mean, uh, I personally don't love the let's go the NSYNC concert tours and things like that. I don't know. I don't love just going and existing back in listening to the music or like being in this past way. I think it's important that if as you party, as you grow into middle age and older, that you are doing new things. That if you're not like having kids and like creating rituals with them and creating new ways to party and be with them is really important. I sometimes see people, myself included, I can have some Peter Pan syndrome stuck in my early 20s. If I'm only going back to that time in my life to party, um, that can be really toxic. So
Hmm.
I guess I'd say is it's good to party whatever way feels good to you, but just be careful that you're not stuck in nostalgia.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that. That's a really, really great answer. What do you see people regret not doing socially?
So speaking a little about what we talked about earlier, I rarely regret like going and doing things. I often regret staying too long.
Oh,
And anything, in many things, in cities, in relationships, in things. And so being light in how you approach things. Um, like being okay to change and move and adapt. But I see people regret staying too long and staying on the Ferris wheel or the merry-go-round for too long.
staying staying too long at the party is a phrase that applies to many, many situations, right?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Well, what have we missed today? Is there anything that we missed in our conversation that we really needed to address?
Well, this was just so lovely. Thanks for coming all the way through the chakras with me, all the way
Yeah,
around and the
I
party
loved it.
within and whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, what would you like to
I guess
leave everyone with? Yeah, if we're in
I'll just
closing.
close with no matter what you take away from this conversation, you don't have to change yourself or make yourself any different. But if you can, like, just go reconnect with that person, that friend. Go party with a stranger. Like, instead of scrolling Netflix this Sunday night, look up like local rave near me and go by yourself. Like you are the party and the party will save humanity. Participate in the world and the world will participate back with you.
Beautiful. And gosh, I mean, like, a lot of people would probably hear that and be like, I would never do that. Well, then that's your cue to grow and like go just, I don't know, just walk in for 5 minutes, right? Like set a modest
Yes.
goal. Can't you
Yeah.
do that? Like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk to 3 people,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever do that? Like set modest goals or tell people to go into this uncomfortable situation and just do like something like that? Like you're going to talk to 3 people and then you can do whatever you can dip.
For sure. And there's all kinds of games you can play. I know some people, there's a trend that's going around on TikTok right now. People that they're doing they do color searching. So like they'll have a group of like four. So I guess this is something you do with your friends, but they'll go and search for like yellow or green or blue, and they're just trying to to find it in places. So that's like a visual way to do it. But like I mentioned, asking people, my favorite question for years was what's bringing you joy in your life? And so my goal would be at every party to ask 7 people what's bringing you joy in your life. And
Oh,
I've made
yeah.
lifelong friends. I've been at weddings for people because that was the first question that I asked them.
Wow. Oh my God. That's just a great one to have in your back pocket too. Like, what a good icebreaker. I'm going to use that. That's fantastic. So, well, thank you. Anything else you want to add before we tell how everyone can find you?
Thank you for having me. Party on.
Party on. Yes. And please share how everyone can find you and perhaps get that. I believe you had a quiz or a workbook that you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. So if you just Google the Party Coach, I'll show up everywhere. Partycoach.me, you can find me there. And there's actually a sort of quiz you can take that you'll actually speak to. I recorded myself kind of at a party asking you questions, and you record your voice back. It will actually give you one of 7 party archetypes that you are that are kind of mapped off the Enneagram. So if you want to hear kind of like where you are in the party, how you might want to shift and change, that's all there. And would love to connect with you. If not in the digital space, I'll see you on a dance floor in life.
Yes, right on, right on. Thank you so much, Evan. And of course, all that will be in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
here.
so much, Amy. You're awesome.
Are you ready to party now? I mean, I've got my gold sparkly jacket on. I haven't worn this jacket in like, I don't know, 10 years. And it just felt right to put it on, right? And that's not nostalgia, but revisiting something that brings me joy. Nothing wrong with that. Reconnecting with my old friend, this jacket. I don't even know what I'm talking about now, but that is so interesting, right? Like, it's easy to forget that there's growth to be had in any space. And that includes partying, right? It's easy to discount certain things as if, oh, like go into the gas station, you're not going to find God. That's kind of what I mean. Like, oh, I'm not going to have any self-growth because I'm just attending this party, whatever, just saying hi. It's small talk, and we get these preconceived notions, especially about small talk. I should have asked him about that. But, what if we asked a totally interesting question, like what's bringing you joy in your life right now? Like, that's not prying too deep. And you know what? It's going to light somebody up if you ask that. If somebody asked me that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what is bringing me joy? I'd be like tickled. So anyway, very interesting stuff. I'm curious about my party archetype. I love a quiz, man. I really do. Let's see. What else do I need to share with you this week on Anything But Mid? What is happening over there? Let's see here. We have had out. This is Oral Health Week. Whitney is talking about oral health. And if you missed last week's on oxytocin, it is so good. I did oxytocin and it was fascinating. I did it, for a little love, little heart-centered something for Valentine's Day. So, anyway, just promoting that. What else do I need to share with you? Thank you to Podcast Magician, our intrepid editors, for this show. So grateful to them. Thank you to the Collective ATX and Tiffany over there for my hair and hair color. Yeah, this is fake. Actually, no, it's real, but it's just I didn't grow it. What else? Thanks again to our guest today, Evan. And you know what? Maybe we can view parties a little bit differently and open ourselves up in some ways that we never thought were possible. Because, how many times do you want to be invited to the party, even if you don't want to go? Maybe then we start going, and then we get invited to more that we can say no to or yes to, whatever. I'm just rambling now. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Follow the show everywhere if you haven't yet. Turn your friend onto it. Please share all the good things. Join the newsletter if you haven't. I've been writing them from a place of where I am right in that moment lately. And it's been really like bloggy, I suppose, but short. Don't worry. It's a 1-minute read. Okay. I love you. I just encourage you to, I don't know, open up, ask somebody what's bringing you joy in your life right now. And I don't know, go to the party, keep your expectations low and open yourself up to some growth. Thanks so much for being here. Keep shining bright. Till next time.
Thank you so much for being here. Please rate, review, and follow us. And we'd love to hear your feedback. Keep shining bright.